Rebound goes to Tyrese Maxey. And for the first time in franchise history, the Philadelphia 76ers have come back from 3-1 down. They take out the number 2 seed in the East, and the process is moving on to the second round.
In 18 years, overcoming a 3-1 deficit to keep their dream season alive. 3 consecutive wins, and they're headed to the second round.
Ladies and gentlemen, a few weeks ago, we witnessed NBA history. Just about 20 hours after the Sixers upset the second-seeded Celtics in Game 7, the Pistons won their Game 7 against the Magic. For the first time in NBA history, there have been 2 3-1 comebacks within 24 hours of each other. In fact, this is the first time there have been 2 3-1 comebacks in the same round. And it just makes me wonder, if there have already been 2 3-1 comebacks in just the first round alone, how many will there be in total when these 2026 NBA playoffs are all said and done? NBA 3-1 comebacks are happening way too frequently. To get a good perspective of the absurd spike in 3-1 comebacks, I'll give you this statistic. To put this in terms of percentages, the first 69 years of the NBA, 86%, there have been 8 3-1 comebacks, and within the last 11 seasons, 14%, there have been 7. What almost took 70 years to happen just happened in the last 11 years. But why is this? Well, the main reason has to do with quantity. During the first 10 years of the NBA, a 7-game series was quite rare. Only the NBA Finals were actually a best-of-7 series, and it fluctuated by season. In 1947 and 1948, the Finals was a best-of-7 series. Then, in 1949 and 1950, the NBA shortened the NBA Finals to a best-of-3 series. And then from 1951 to 1956, the NBA Finals was a best-of-5. The NBA Finals only started permanently becoming a best-of-7 series starting in 1957. But all that time, there was no best-of-7 series. In the first round, second round, or third round, no best-of-7 series means there cannot be a 3-1 comeback. The conference finals didn't have a best-of-7 series until 1958, and the semifinals didn't start having a best-of-7 series until 1968. And finally, the first round only started holding best-of-7 series in 2003. Again, all that time, there were no chances of having a 3-1 comeback, because a lot of the series were best-of-5 or best-of-3. Another factor you have to consider is that the NBA isn't how it used to be seeding-wise anymore. The skill gap between a number 1 seed and a number 8 seed now isn't nearly as big as the skill gap between the 1st and 8th seed, say, 10, 20, 30 years ago, let alone the gap between a number 1 seed and, say, the 4th or 5th seed. Upsets are bound to happen more often now because the NBA is tighter now. I mean, just look at the West. You could say that seeds 3 through 6 were capable of beating each other on any given night. It was completely a toss-up when those teams played. If you mixed up the seedings of 3 through 6 and put them against each other randomly in a 7-game series, you could say that any matchup has a good chance of the series going to 7 games, because the skill gap is so narrow compared to the past. In the first round series, there were 3 series that went to Game 7. The last time there were 3 Game 7s in a first round series was all the way back in 2014. With a tighter skill gap now more than ever, there's more of a chance where a 3-1 comeback may occur, because it's just more of a neck-and-neck series rather than just one team dominating the other as it was in the past. And a huge reason being is the overwhelming amount of injuries, load management, and tanking this season. With players getting injuries more frequently nowadays, it's more likely that you will end up getting incorrect or inaccurate seeding at the end of the season. When you look at a team like the Sixers, it's definitely a perfect example of this. Embiid has been dealing with injuries for most of the season, leaving the Sixers as just a mediocre team all season. But with Embiid coming back later on in that series versus the Celtics, the Sixers we saw during the regular season was a completely different team than we saw versus Boston. If the Sixers have Embiid healthy, they are definitely not finishing 7th in the East. So the Celtics may have been playing a 7th seed on paper, but skill-wise, the Sixers are definitely higher than that, leading to their 3-1 comeback. Another reason why seeding is so tight is because of the major tanking trend as of late. With a handful of teams losing games on purpose, this also leads to a handful of teams winning games that they shouldn't be winning. And now there is a huge skill gap between the tanking teams and the normal teams, causing the normal teams to get smushed at the top side of the standings because too many teams are winning too many games. But even when you keep that into consideration, there's still been a spike in 3-1 comebacks as of late. And there have been 5 comebacks from 2003 to 2019, which is 16 years, but 4 3-1 comebacks in the last 5 years. And a big reason why is the 2020 Denver Nuggets. In 2020, the Nuggets did something special. They came back from down 3-1 2 times in the same playoff run, something that's never been done. To show you just how crazy that is, the percent of teams that came back down 3-1 are about 5%, as there have been 15 total comebacks in 303 times where a team has been down 3-1. So not only did the Nuggets come back with just a 5% chance, they did it again the very next series. And what makes this even more impressive is that one of the comebacks were against the second-seeded Clippers, who were a real threat to win the NBA Finals that year. Which brings me to my next point, which is seeding. Out of the 15 NBA 3-1 comebacks to ever occur, just 4 of them, the lower seed, ended up winning. But we're going to take out the 2016 Cavs 3-1 comeback against the Warriors, because although the Cavs were major underdogs, the Warriors and Cavs were both the number 1 seed in their respective conferences, so it was equal seeding. So that brings us to just 3 teams that have came back from down 3-1 and were the lower seed: the 1995 Rockets, the 2020 Nuggets, and the 2026 76ers. Now when we take these 3 teams out of 303 teams down 3-1, the percentage of teams that come back down 3-1 go from 5% to less than 1%. The 95 Rockets, the 2020 Nuggets, and the 2026 Sixers are defying odds that have no business being defied. Coming back from down 3-1 is a historic feat itself, but coming back from down 3-1 as a lower seed is just a different level of insane. And what we witnessed with the 76ers a few weeks ago is something that we all should be grateful that we even saw at all. The act of coming down from down 3-1 in general is eye-opening, but I think the spike of 3-1 comebacks will continue to grow in the future years, because as the NBA becomes more competitive and closer together skill-wise, the likelihood of a 3-1 comeback will go up. But at the end of the day, a 3-1 comeback in itself is an incredible feat no matter what the odds are, and we as fans should be thankful that we're here to even experience it.